Tim Cook is a great CEO in his own right, but he's not Steve Jobs. And I think that you're really starting to feel the lack of innovator CEO at Apple.
Welcome to the Tech and Tea podcast. I'm your host, Gav Blacksburg, here today with Alex Finn and Penny2X. And we are going to kick things off talking about Apple, a tech giant which seems to maybe not be such a giant anymore. Or is it? Let's dive into things. Apple had a lot of news over the past year regarding AI, new products, rollouts, and it seems like a lot of it really hasn't come to fruition. I want to get your guys' thoughts as we jump right into this. I think it'll be important for us to discuss the financial side of things because a lot of people point to that, but I want us to take a look at the tech first and get started there. Alex, give me your initial thoughts as one of the top Apple users in the world. What's happening with this company?
I'm a big Apple product fan. I'm not a big Apple company fan. So there was a bunch of leak communication the last week that came out about Siri, their AI team, and kind of the way they operate. Basically, the engineering teams handling Siri has switched like 100 times the last several years. Like just no one knows what the hell to do with it. Everyone has different opinions. So they just keep switching it in and out. That's why it basically hasn't evolved in a decade. Then the AI team, I think the internal nickname they said for the AI team, the AI ML team is aimless, which is actually kind of funny because they also switch and no one knows what the hell to do with it and no one knows. And then more internal communication leaked that said when ChatGPT launched a few years ago, that their like executives were like, oh, this is a passing fad. No one's going to care about AI chatbots. Don't do anything about it, which is like, I forgot who made the comparison. Oh, someone on X was like, this is like when Steve Ballmer said that the iPhone will never have any market share of cell phones. This was like that exact moment, but for Apple. So it is pretty wild what is going on there. I think the most interesting and the kind of the most telling and core part of all of this is part of those communications. The person who leaked all this was like the employees at Apple that are on all these teams. They care more about how much PTO they get a year. They care about shrinking the amount of hours they work in the day, and they care more about summer Fridays than like working on this tech. And it just shows you what happens when you get big and you lose your edge and you overhire and you become more about bureaucracy and progress. It's like everything just gets slowed down and everyone gets on different pages. So it is kind of wild. I'll land it here, which is like, it's clear why they're not innovating if that's like their mindset and the way their team works. But it also is pretty incredible because like Apple Silicon and the MacBook Pro and like Mac Studio are by far the best, like right now, the best performing computers. Like I have a MacBook Pro M4. It is absolutely amazing, right? So I guess they do what their bread and butter really well, but they absolutely stink when it comes to innovating now, which is really sad to see from the most innovative company ever.
You know, Tim Cook is a great CEO in his own right, but he's not Steve Jobs. And I think that you're really starting to feel the lack of an innovator CEO at Apple. I spent, decades recruiting in tech, and just about any college event that I would attend, Apple was always there, right? And they would have a huge line of applicants. Like the rest of the booths all around the college or whatever would have, a dozen people in front of it or maybe even 20. But then they would just be hundreds waiting in line for Apple. They have had their pick of, high quality engineers from all the best schools for a long time. They are huge. And unfortunately, what they've done is they've really focused on manufacturing. They've really focused on their supply chain. They've really focused on unit economics and getting Apple to be extremely profitable. They've made a ton of people a ton of money in the stock over the past decade. But the reality is that they just, I guess the Vision Pro is maybe the one exception. They are innovating in that regard. They have the best new device as it comes along the lines of virtual reality, which is probably a bit of a threat to Meta. They've been heavily focused on that, and they don't necessarily have the best device. But aside from that, aside from like a slightly better version of earphones, what has Apple come out with recently? Like, I love my AirPods, but even if I think about like what's a cutting edge tech thing that a lot of people are actually using, my Meta Ray-Bans are probably like the new cool sort of thing that I'm getting a lot of use out of, right? Like I'm recording with those all the time and I'm actually benefiting from it. I know Alex uses the Vision Pro, but I don't know anyone else who does, right? So it just seems like they're not making a lot of progress on the cutting edge. I think it's hilarious that they sort of took the lessons from Siri. They're like, oh yeah, we put it out and everyone hates it and no one uses it because we're Apple. No one can make a better chatbot than us. This is a doomed industry forever. That never would have happened if Steve Jobs was still in charge. That's sort of my 2 cents.
Did you already have the Meta Ray-Bans before I showed you mine last month, or did you get them recently?
No, I had them before. I can't recall who I saw have them first. Actually, you know who I think it was? I think it was John from Tesla Owner Silicon Valley. He was wearing them at an event that I attended and like recording as he was talking to people. And I thought they were cool. Being the media now, we need to be able to record at any given time. So I thought those.
Yeah. Do those do anything cool other than creepily record people as you walk around?
You can take your calls and like listen to music, and you can ask you questions about like what you're seeing.
Why can't I do that with this?
So like I think the main thing is the beginning thing that you said, right? You can get that POV shot without having to hold up a camera and make it like awkward. I do it a lot of like conferences if I'm walking around trying to get footage, or if I'm trying to potentially do something that uses my hands. I know content creators use them pretty often, but then I think that the other thing is for me, like people not thinking that I have headphones in and I can't hear them, but I can still listen to my stuff. I don't know. Everything is just social acceptance nowadays. That's like half of tech.
For me, it's really nice to get sort of like candid shots, right? Like the little light comes up when you turn them on. So it's not like they're totally unaware, but it's a different feeling than if you shove your camera or shove your phone in someone's face, right? That like changes the whole vibe. If you just push a button on your glasses and start talking, people don't feel it as much, I think.
I think like a good example is, so I had a really cool experience last week where I got to take like a private jet into the Kennedy Space Center / NASA down in Orlando. And I wanted to get like a cool shot with the captain getting off the jet. And so I wasn't going to like take my phone out, like hold it in front of me as I'm like walking off, like, thanks, Captain, with like a phone. But I just had the Meta Ray-Bans on and I just took a video as I'm walking out. You can see me like shaking his hand and then getting off the plane, turning around, seeing the plane. But like, it wasn't like weird at all with the guy of just like me like getting off the plane. You know, it was just a normal interaction. So I think that's what it was, like a big thing. But we're getting a little bit off topic, pulling it back to Apple for a second. So I do think there's a huge thing to discuss here, which is AI. So Apple announced, their big thing with their commercials for the 16 was that we're going to have, AI will be built in, Apple Intelligence. I don't think I've really used anything that would like consider itself to be Apple Intelligence at all. There's just a different light up feature for Siri, if maybe that's what they meant by AI intelligence. A couple times in the Notes app, I've done like a math equation and it solves it for me. Like not like big whoop, like cool, I guess. You did some addition and subtraction for me inside there. There's not really a lot else. In fact, Siri still seems, pretty dumb. I think I was having conversations with Siri probably a good 10, 15 years. Like, God, Siri came out. When did Siri come out? When they launch it? Did it come out in like 07, 08 with the iPhone?
You're make my Siri go off over here. Stop saying Siri so much.
Siri, that light up you're talking about keeps happening on my desk.
Okay, sorry. Okay. I'll stop doing it.
But S. Just call it S.
S. Okay, so I remember having conversations with S at least 12 to 15 years ago. Okay, here we go. Perfect.
But even when it came out, were you like, is there anyone that's been like a power user of S?
No, but like I remember being like slightly fascinated, and I'd like, especially because I was brought up in a household where electronics and technology was very taboo. Because we were very orthodox. So like we never had a TV in my house. We never had smartphones. We never had anything like that. So like when my friends had like Siri, I'd be like, oh, sorry. My friends had S. I'd be like, oh my gosh, let me have a conversation with it. And I talked to it for like 10, 15 minutes. And the conversation I was having with it then, it doesn't seem like much has changed to today, right?
It's really bad. In fact, I haven't even really noticed it except for be annoyed by it. And I even tried to plug into the ChatGPT stuff, right? Like I was asking for help with a recipe. And that's the sort of thing that sometimes I'll use with Siri. It's like, what temperature do I set my oven, to cook salmon or something like that? And it's super buggy. Like you say, yeah, send it to ChatGPT, and then it fails. And it's like, okay, that was pointless. It's easier for me to just go and open an app, like open, the Grok app and just talk to that one instead.
I guess the question is like, what's stopping them? It just seems like such a natural progression. So even with, so you guys both know that I'm a Google Gemini hater. I think that it provides really inaccurate information all the time when you ask it basic questions. And even though I'm a hater, I still think that it's a helpful feature because it's just taking beforehand we were like, hey, what's this question? And it would source a bunch of sites. Now it's just, putting it together, giving you an answer. Same thing for S. When I ask S, hey, tell me about this, I don't want to be like, I found this on the internet. No, like go through, read the articles and provide me, some type of answer. That doesn't seem like a very large leap. I just don't know what's holding them back.
Well, the answer to your question directly is a lack of vision. They don't have vision, clearly. Like they don't have one person from the top saying, this is what you need to do. This is the best answer. You kind of have two different types of leaders. You have creative leaders and businessmen leaders. And Steve Jobs was like the creative leader who has a vision for what people need to do and what the product needs to do. And then everyone falls in line and follows it. And it's like, you're behind the head of the arrow. And then you have business leaders, which is Tim Cook, which makes them very good at optimizing the company and optimizing everything and squeezing the last few dollars out. The issue is sometimes you lose vision when you have a business type leader. You saw the same thing with Nintendo. They had the same CEO for like 20 years, Satoru Iwata, who created some incredible products. It was a visionary behind like the Nintendo DS and like a lot of their, game changing products that changed video games, the Wii. He dies and then they bring in another guy and it's just been total optimization. And now they're releasing the Switch 2, which everyone's saying is garbage, right? So it's like you either have leaders who are businessmen who optimize, right, which is good. And something like if you're like an IBM, then maybe that's a good thing to do. But if you're an innovative company like Apple, it's hard to switch from Steve Jobs, who's this visionary, creative guy, to Tim Cook, who's just optimize. Now this is what happens. No one has any vision anymore. They want more PTO.
Wasn't Tim Cook COO before he was CEO? I feel like those people belong in those spots, and CEOs should be creative, especially of tech companies. Like, who wants to be the dying IBM? I know I don't. Tech is changing so fast, and it's just getting faster. Like, we were talking briefly at the intro about your interview with the Perplexity CEO. And I asked him during that interview, like, what is it that has surprised you the most? And what do you expect to surprise people the most in the future? And his answer is how fast things are changing, right? So like, you can't just be an operator right now and expect that your 5-year-old technology, if you just optimize it, it's going to continue to get better, right? The reason that Siri is unable to do what you're talking about is the model actually isn't even good enough to read and summarize those articles, right? Like if you recall, that was only like maybe ChatGPT 3.5 probably that got good enough to read an article and summarize it for us. And there is no way Siri is even near that, right? Like Siri is like GPT-2 or, 1.5 or something like that. I mean, like it's pathetic in comparison.
Alex, loaded question. Is it time to fire Tim Cook?
I would actually consider it. Because the business isn't performing as well. The revenue's not. So even as a business optimizer, like the revenue's not growing tremendously. And there's like when things like this happen where there's a clear lack of vision and for 10 straight years, no one knows what the hell to do with a product that was at one point, like Siri was the first voice assistant that was once an innovative product. Do you hear that? It's talking to me right now. Shut up. Siri, shut up.
Well,
shut up.
Yeah. By the way, it's funny that my voice triggered your guys. I have mine set up. Mine will not activate for anyone else but my voice, which is a cool feature.
You guys, it's doing it for you. Hey, I'll wrap the point with this. Just to steel man it for a second, though. The point, what Apple's been good at for a long time as well is like they don't do something until it's like there's a version of it that's palatable for a general audience. And like they let other people do the crazy experimentation. They come in with the best version, the palatable version for a general audience. The thing is, I would argue that voice assistants and AI chatbots still aren't palatable to the average person. I'd say the average person uses AI chatbots to go in and like, tell me a fart joke. Like, I don't think the average, like we're tech people, right? But the average person, like if you went to your mom or dad or like just someone who never uses tech and you say, how do you use AI chatbots? I bet you would not get a very compelling answer at all. And same thing with voice assistants. Like even when S was cutting edge, was anyone really using it in a really compelling way? Or was it kind of like, set the add
this to my checklist. Yeah.
Right. So like, I would argue that for good reason, Apple hasn't released anything amazing because no one really uses those tech. The only reason we're talking about this is because it's a very compelling narrative that Apple fell off, right? Like people like that narrative. People like the narrative of the top people falling off. So I'd also argue at the same time, like there's nothing really like for the mainstream audience, like compelling about AI at the moment.
Why would you say then that ChatGPT has gained more users faster than any other app in history, right? Like to me, that is a great indicator that it's going mainstream. So while I agree with you that not everyone is using it yet, I go, to a garage CrossFit gym and the guy who runs it there, instead of subscribing to get CrossFit workouts from some service, now he just asks Grok to create a CrossFit workout. And he's like, no, I don't like that one. Create another one. So like people are starting to use it. He's, more of a blue collar guy, not like a major tech enthusiast. But I think, like my dad isn't really using it that much yet. I do think that the tech is there though. Like if ChatGPT or a high-end foundation model existed with one button press on the phone, whether it's Android or Apple or whatever, I do think that we're at the point now where they're good enough where people would start to use them for more than just checking the weather or setting an alarm. But like, it's just not all integrated yet.
I do have a thought on the parenting, but before, just to double back to the point. So real quick, yes or no question, Alex, does Apple need to fire Tim Cook to return to prominence?
Yeah.
Boom. There you go.
100%. Innovator CEO.
Innovator CEO. And okay, well, follow-up question. Do you have anyone in mind that you think should be the CEO of Apple?
But here's a follow-up point to it as well, is very rarely after a founder CEO leaves, like a visionary founder CEO leaves, do they ever bring in another person again who has that type of vision? That's very hard to do. Like whenever you see a company, like I worked for a couple companies like this, where like the founder starts the company, they have a distinct vision, and then like they hit a certain level, and then they fire him and bring in like the experienced business guy. Very rarely does it go from that stage further, right? Like I don't even know who you would bring in to make, like very rarely is it successful after you take out the visionary founder. You see with like Vlad Tenev at Robinhood, like he's the visionary founder. If you took him out and put someone else in, they'd just be like TD Ameritrade, I guarantee. Like they just optimize everything it's very hard to find a visionary as good as the original founder.
I think those people generally get into founding new companies of their own. They're in startups, right? Like they're working on cutting edge stuff, and it's just not the same as going and leading a tech giant. I think they're leading their own companies already.
Yeah, I think the thing with AI specifically, with adoption across other generations, I agree with you. Apple always lets everyone else take the risk. They did it. They basically just fall behind Samsung for the most part. They let Samsung roll out a feature, have it out for several years, tweak it, and then they'll roll it out, right? They did it with all the little things on Samsung, locked folders, swiping on the freaking keyboard. It was like Apple used to be like, wow, have you seen this feature? Samsung used to be like, yes, 6 years ago. And then they'd get it out there. And so maybe they're waiting for one of these other phones to have a strong, operating system similar to S or something like that people are using, because nobody else has it either, right? Samsung rolled out Bixby, I think like 10 years ago. Nobody uses Bixby. Most people have never even heard of Bixby, right? That was their competitor that was on there. I don't even know what else they have. Some of the other phones have different ones. So that's maybe the issue here. Apple is so used to not leading the pack with innovation, but instead actually watching others try, fail, succeed, and then coming in that since nobody else has perfected this AI features on your phone, what is Apple going to model off of for perfection? They just don't have any data there. And so I think that might be part of the issue. And I will say also with this older generation, and this makes me very bullish on AI, it's not because AI is not useful for them. It's just because there's a lack of knowledge as to how they can use it and how it can help them. So my dad, after being a chiropractor for like 30 years, when he retired, became a full-time editor. Loves to write. He's written multiple books, and he started writing for other people, editing, all that type of stuff. I introduced him to ChatGPT, and it fucking changed his life. Okay, imagine he's like a full-time editor. I was like, hey, like, how would you like something that can like summarize 50 pages for you and fix all the stuff like this? He goes, how does this work? I sat him down, and now for like a $20 a month, subscription, it like completely changed. He's able to work like twice as much for clients because he has this other piece. So I just think that people just don't know that it exists or how to use it. And that makes me very bullish on it because that leaves a lot of opportunity. But yes, I also think that I didn't even think about it until I said it. But my point on Apple not having anyone else to model off of for AI features on a cell phone kind of makes sense to me now.
But Tim Cook wasn't waiting for anyone to model after, right? Like you just can't do that when things are changing this fast. I think
What do you mean he's not waiting? They've modeled everything pretty much.
Sorry, I misspoke. I ment Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he was innovative. But they found the new strategy of like perfecting afterwards now, which is working for a while, but now it's like it just doesn't work anymore. Like I think once feature sets and use cases for the average person come out where they don't have to like learn something, right? Your dad had to learn how to use ChatGPT. For instance, a feature I find interesting is like Samsung, they have their own AI, Samsung AI, they put on their Galaxy AI, right? Where it automatically every morning sends you an alert with what your meetings are for the day and the top emails from last night. It's just like a push notification every morning. Like I think use cases like that are very interesting because you don't have to, as a user, need to do anything at all, right? You just sign into your calendar app and now you're getting notifications with like a rundown of your day. It tells you the weather, it tells you what events you have that day, it tells you what emails you got last night. Like I think stuff like that is really interesting. And Apple should come out with a feature like that for iPhone.
It was something like 10 years ago, but I'll never forget the experience. I had an Android phone. I had bought like a Galaxy 5 or something like that a long time ago. And I used to take the train back and forth to work. And one day I got a notification on my phone that said that my train was delayed. And I had never even told my phone that I use it. I was blown away. I think it must have read my email or something.
It does.
But it knew.
Google Calendar and then Google Calendar to Google Maps. And then it can see the trains in Google Maps. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was so super cool. So like more stuff like that, I think is where it's going. I think calendar integration is actually a huge move for AI. Like if you look at the most recent announcement from OpenAI yesterday, Sam Altman was talking about the newest feature, which is that ChatGPT remembers all of your previous chats, right? So what it's doing is it's shoving in a bunch more context, which is super, super important because that is the limiting factor for these AIs right now is they just don't know you and your world. But now ChatGPT's adding in all of that. Once they add in the calendar and the email and all of that, and it's all sort of in the same ecosystem, man, everything's going to change.
Well, because then it's the most, what I think is the most applicable usage of AI, which is personal assistant, right? I think that's the most easy worldwide usage of AI right across the board, and it just needs those integrations. Funny that you were saying that with the context clues, by the way. So I obviously use Duolingo a lot. And one of the things that's cool in Duolingo is they have like these little things where you can talk to the AI. So they'll basically just have like a person on the screen and it's like a FaceTime call almost with like an animated person, but you can actually have conversation and they pick up on context clues. And now they must have recently taught it to start remembering past conversations because now that AI knows that I live in Puerto Rico and will ask me like questions and specifically talk to me about Puerto Rico, even if I don't mention it in that conversation. It didn't used to carry from conversation to conversation. So little things like that.
So even Duolingo is passing Apple in terms of AI functionality now.
It is.
I think AI's biggest challenge right now, and this is probably when Apple will jump in when this is solved, is AI requires creative thinking from its user. And I think 95% of the world is completely incapable of creative thinking, right? And so I think that's the biggest barrier. And I'm being 100% serious. I think that's the biggest barrier for AI at the moment is it requires creative thinking. It requires you to be like, okay, how should I word this? What should I ask of it? How can AI help here? And I honestly believe 95% of people in the world are incapable of thinking that way, thinking creatively, coming up with new use cases, coming up with different ways to say things. I think most people are just drones who they're going by the book. They live their life by the book. And this requires thinking outside the book.
But let's say all of a sudden you don't need that creativity, right? Are people like where is it going anyway? It feels like if Apple decides today that like they want to get into this, they don't have the data centers, right? Like how are they going to jump right in when they're ready? Are they going to like buy Microsoft chips? Or they can't just get 200,000 NVIDIA chips and get it up and running like XAI has. So I don't know what they're waiting for. I think they need to get going now.
Well, they could integrate like they're doing now, where they integrate ChatGPT. If they could, find a partnership with a company who just give them all the infrastructure and they figure out a way to integrate it in their software. But I don't know. They're clearly lost. They care more about paid time off than innovating.
I don't want to make this a tariffs conversation, but I do feel like the tariffs are also potentially going to heavily affect Apple in multiple ways. It seems like one of the first things that people talk about. I mean, literally, was it Howard Lutnick on TV saying, yeah, we're going to screw the millions of people in China, screwing the little screws into iPhones. We're going to do that here in the US. That was a quote from him, I believe, on TV. And so that feels like that could slow down Apple even more, right? Now, if you have to build your factories here, like the whole model of Apple also from a financial perspective really only works because they can outsource labor. I don't really feel like they're going to be innovating or making money if they're having to really do it in the US.
Imagine this. Let's imagine this scenario for a second. They build the iPhone factories in America. All the kind of Americans start filing in to tinker and build their little iPhones. And then the guy on the line is like, hey, what's the PTO for this week? When do I get off? Do I get Friday off? Like, when's lunch break? Can I go grab a 2-hour lunch and go down to Nobu? What's going like? You think anyone that's going to happen, right? You think anyone in like China building iPhones are thinking about when the PTO is, or when they can go to Nobu for lunch and get sushi? Literally all they're thinking about is how can I get around the net outside the window so I can kill myself later. That's the only thing they're thinking about.
Damn, right? Those Chinese memes where they've got like a bunch of fat Americans putting iPhones together and stuff. I got to admit, those are kind of funny, but it almost feels like they're making fun of themselves. Is that like what they're doing now? I'm
just going to put this out there, and maybe someone can tell this to Trump. We're never going to live in a world where iPhones are created in America. It's never going to happen. Americans will never go to a factory and assemble iPhones. It will never happen in 10 trillion years. Stop trying to make that happen. It will never happen.
Not American workers, but American robots, Alex. Like people aren't going to be building these things in 5 years anyways. Optimus is. And there's going to be tens, hundreds of thousands of those. Like that's the direction.
What's the gap in time, though, to when Optimus can be creating iPhones?
Yeah, too bad the tariffs are coming out right now, Penny, right now. Yeah, they're saying move it to America right now, not in 5 years. In 5 years, the dollar will be worth $0 and the stock market will be at $2.
Right. In the short term, I don't think, I mean, just even if Americans were willing to do those jobs, it takes a lot of work to build the factories, whatever, right? But Tesla's going to make between 5,000 and 10,000 Optimus bots in 2025. This year, right? We're halfway through the year. They're doing that right now. Next year, they're going to make 50 to 100,000. The year after that, who knows how many? Maybe they make 1 million, right? We're getting there
right now. Evan, per Grok, how many people right now are working on like Apple factories and production lines in China creating iPhones? That's kind of my question, because this theory also hinges on Apple buying how many Optimus robots, right, to try to replace a workforce and then maintaining them.
It also hinges on Optimus robots being able to screw in screws with their hands like this. That ain't happening for another 10 years, buddy.
It's not going to take 10 years, bro.
You can build as many Optimuses as you want. They ain't screwing in screws like this in an iPhone.
You'll see.
Oh, yeah. Okay, buddy.
Dude, look, I was at an event. I was at an event with 20 Optimus like 6 months ago, where sure, they weren't screwing in little.
All right, look at that. Look at that. 1.5 million people are in Apple's global supply chain, with a third of them working in final assembly roles. So you're saying over 1 million of these Optimus.
No, they said a third. So 500,000 working on final assembly. And I'm not saying it's going to be here tomorrow. I'm just saying I was answering his comment about they will never be assembled in America. And I disagree. I think as soon as the robots are ready, they'll be assembled in America. And I think that's sooner than his take.
All right, here we go. When do you got
to make it the next 90 days because we have a 90-day limit until the tariffs are up. So can we get the 10 million robots screwing screws like this? When's that happening?
It says 2026. That seems a little crazy to me. It's saying next year.
Dude,
but I don't know if
by end of 2026, if an Optimus can't put a tiny screw into a phone, I'll eat my socks.
I also, by the way, this is cool. Grok now says how long it thought for to give you the answer. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, very interesting there. Also, Alex, you had some thoughts around IP. With like this trade war turning into potentially an IP war, that could affect Apple as well, right?
Yeah, well, we're in a place right now where China semi-respects our intellectual property. Right? They still sneaky steal stuff. You go on Alibaba and then somehow every American product's on Alibaba, but they at least try to mask it a little bit, the IP theft. If we stay in a place where we continue this war, they're not going to care about IP and they're just going to steal it openly and we'll have nothing left. Like that's what they're kind of like the Apple of, they kind of send things out after it's done.
They're kind of like the Apple. Yeah.
They're kind of like the Apple of IP where they wait till everyone else do it, then they do it. Well, they like wait for America to do something, then they just steal it and do it themselves. Except kind of opposite where they just do it way cheaper instead of Apple, which does the same thing, but way more expensive. So, we could be in a place where this trade war continues. They just start stealing all our IP and they don't care about it because they fucking hate us.
Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank put out a video yesterday or the day before talking about how that already happens. Like he has been doing business in China for decades and every single thing that he brings there to get manufactured, he said like within days, it's available on the secondary market.
Well, so in order to operate in China, you legally have to share your IP with the Chinese government. I'm pretty sure that's still the structure in the way that they have it set up. They have to have access to it. And so, yeah, it's a lot of trust, right? Hey, we're going to give you back-end access to all of our items. It's why a lot of companies, won't put any of their intellectual property headquarters, software development, anything like that. Like, sure, China here, you can have the hardware side of things and understand that. So I don't know exactly how far they're going into it. I don't know how much China has on the data side. But yeah, I agree with you guys. It could get a little crazy. At the same time, while we talk through just all this like downside, it's just still so hard for me to comprehend, right? I am currently on my MacBook Pro that I'm recording and doing this with you guys. I have 2 MacBook Pros. Could definitely see myself as they continue to upgrade, getting a third. Along those lines, I have 2 sets of the AirPod Pros, which I love. I'm thinking about getting a third, to be honest, because
why do you have 2 sets of AirPod Pros?
I bought the ones and then the 2s. When they upgraded to have the second one. And then if they come out with another third upgraded version, I'll buy that version as well. I'm happy to take it. I also have 2 or 3 iPhones. So I have like my regular iPhone.
This is why America has so much leverage in trade wars, is because America's filled of gobs that just consume. If you change the port from Lightning to USB-C, we'll fucking buy it. We don't give a shit. We'll just consume the hell out of everything. We'll produce absolutely nothing. But if you put out anything, we'll spend $10,000 on it and buy it. So this is why we have, thank you, Gob. This is why we have leverage in the world.
I do my best. I am the American consumer. So yeah, I've got all of those items and it just makes it difficult for me to look at Apple and say like, oh, this is going to go away, because even if I feel like if they just innovate slightly, like maybe I won't upgrade every year, but every 2 or 3 years I'll upgrade. And I do feel like on the phones that there's some things that they could continue to improve that would make significant difference. So I don't know. It does feel like it's in a weird place right now as a company, but it feels like just a little kick in the butt and a little bit of innovation and tariffs going away. They could be in an okay place. Do you guys feel different?
As much as I bitch about Apple, there's like a 0% chance that if I dropped my phone and it cracked and I had to get a new one, that I'd go buy an Android or anything from any other company. And I would say that holds doubly true for my laptop, right? Like I would be in shambles if I lost my MacBook and I couldn't replace it. So, yeah, the stories of their death are probably a bit exaggerated right now.
Yeah.
But if some hardware company came out with an AI first version of a phone or a laptop and it was just significantly better, if the operating system had the AI built in and it was able to do all sorts of things like get into your calendar and all of that and be a better personal assistant, I think all of a sudden the walled garden loses its luster and I probably would jump. Like at the end of the day, I need to be more productive and this AI makes people more productive.
Well, first off, I would say I love the rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated line. I will also say within these pieces, as we talk about it, I do think that there's a different, it's the ecosystem, right? I think that is the big piece. When you talk about it, somebody asked me this the other day. I was just thinking about it. I was like, okay, if there was like a house fire or something, like what would I grab? What are my valuables? And to be honest, like I have a safe, but there's nothing like that valuable in it. It's just got like credit cards and I don't know, my passport, stuff like that. Like a couple of like personal items, like my birth certificate, but nothing that like I
Where do
don't
you keep your crypto keys?
Well, yeah, there you go. Tell him. I got my UB keys in there, all that good stuff. But like outside of those, I'm really thinking it's just like my laptop and my phone are my laptop outside of my car is probably the most expensive thing that I own right now. Like I don't have any like fancy jewelry, watches, any stuff like that. So probably the MacBook is the most expensive thing I own outside the car. And the crazy thing is, even if the MacBook and the phone, perished in a fire, I could probably just buy another one or use my Apple Care maybe to get another one. I don't know. And everything would be in the cloud, right? And then it'd just be able to download it back on and all my apps could come back and transfer over. And so it's just this like the value of this ecosystem that we're stuck in where these are my most valuable possessions, but it's not even those that matter. It's really just Apple. Has me locked in a safe. Yeah. Amazon has to come into our door pretty regularly.
What are you ordering?
Gosh, I don't know. What did I order yesterday? It's a good question. Honestly, other people order stuff here too under my name, fiance, mother, other things coming. So the last couple of days have been actually returning packages for the mother. She ordered, I don't know what these are. Maybe they're like knockoff DJIs.
The fuck is that?
Yeah, it looks like it.
I don't know. She got
Lark
these.
H2? What is that?
I do order a lot of protein snacks. I don't know. I've never seen these before. She ordered them.
Are those like the Raycons of headphones?
No, they're like DJI like microphones, where you plug the thing into your phone and then you have like a little mic, like the ones that I had at the Robin Hood event. Outside of that, I don't know, just a lot of protein. Yeah, I order a lot of jerky and protein bars and snacks pretty much constantly.
Nice, man. Get big.
Trying. Fun. All right, let's see if there's anything else. What else is in the safe? That's what Evan's asking me. What else is in my safe?
What are your crypto keys?
Real quick,
what's your seed phrase?
Since we're at the end of the conversation, my safe contents, as stated. So probably, all right. So one thing, the only thing that I really collect in this world, I got into the mindset of like throughout my life, I'm like, I like collecting something. Alex, do you collect anything?
Do I collect anything?
Anything physical?
I used to collect NFTs. Other than that, no.
God.
I used to collect sneakers. I used to be a big sneaker guy.
The sneakerhead?
Yeah, I used to be a sneakerhead, but you break out. It's like a mental disease. It's mental illness, sneakers. You can get so caught up in collecting them, but then you break free and you're like, whoa, what the hell was I doing that entire time? That's insane. Those are really the only things I've collected.
Penny?
In the past, I've had some collections. Like I have a bunch of toy motorcycles. I haven't bought any of those in like a decade, probably. I also collect poker chips from different casinos that I've played at around the world. But that like takes up a small amount of space, right? Like one poker chip from every chip. I don't like collecting.
Is this like $100 poker chip that you're just like sacrificing the money, or is this like $1 poker chips?
It depends. It depends on how good my day was. I have some hundreds. Most of them are like fives. I've even some ones, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. So the only thing that I really collect right now, I used to collect sunglasses when I was a kid, but the only thing I really collect right now is I collect hotel key cards. I have so many. All right, because I travel all the time and I'm staying places, and like they always give you the key cards. And I was like, one day I'll make like, a giant tabletop, like epoxy over it, and just make this really cool table. I probably have like 100 plus hotel key cards, and I just keep them in my safe. I don't know why I keep them in there.
Your safe? Why is it?
Yeah, you gotta protect it. Evan might steal them. You never know. And then outside of that, I've got cash, social security cards, birth documents.
What's your social security number?
My social, I'll have to get back to you on that. And then, I don't know, a few other things. There's like nothing crazy in there is what I'm getting at. It's
Where
like
do you keep your
products. Where do I keep my what?
Your guns.
My guns? Oh, yeah. Those are not in that safe. Those are right here, baby. Know what I'm saying? Keep them on me at all times. I don't know. Basically what I'm getting at is like Apple devices are literally my most valuable things in life right now. I'm built into their ecosystem. My entire work stuff and everything really flows through it. And so it's just like, it's hard for me to fathom that the company could go downhill quickly when it's so integral to our lives.
Yeah, they'll always be relevant. Like they'll never go to zero because we're just too integrated into the ecosystems. They've done a really good job of making us sticky, but it feels like all they've focused on is making us sticky the last 10 years. Now it's like you also need to innovate and bring more people in,
First said all they focused on is making us sticky for the last 10 years. Anyway, good stuff. There's obviously other stuff going on right now, but I like that we kept this conversation on Apple. I think it's super interesting. Real quick, just Alex, how many Apple devices do you own? Also, crazy that you're the #1 Vision Pro user in the world and you could be so bearish on Apple. Wild.
Well, I mean, I'm bullish on the Vision Pro, and I'm more bullish on VR. But I mean, and I'm very bullish in their laptop, but I'm bearish on their innovation. They gotta innovate. I mean, the Vision Pro is amazing, but
even Vision Pro, like there was stuff where I was like, okay, this makes sense. Like I could they'll sell the front seat at a basketball game and I can sit there in my Vision Pro and it's like I'm sitting courtside, or they'll do this for football or whatever. I feel like that stuff hasn't come to fruition, has it?
No.
Even like simple things. I don't know.
Yeah, they've lost their direction.
If they don't sell enough headsets, then they can't really afford to put that camera in the back seat, right?
Bro, what is Grok doing?
But make him sticky?
Well, they've been making you sticky for the last 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
You needed to ask Siri to do that instead of Grok.
Oh gosh.
That?
Do you guys not have that set up where it's only your voice that can activate your S on your phone?
I've spent 0 seconds setting up S. Zero. I will. Who gives a shit? I don't know.
I don't even think you have to turn that on. Doesn't it just sort of automatically do it when it records your voice?
I don't know. It's a good question. I just know that my fiance will like casually try to use mine and it just doesn't listen to her. It's always funny to me. Cool. All right. Very fun topic here on Apple. Any other just quick like highlights from the week, Alex? Anything else that stood out to you you'd want to get out there, get off your chest?
Well, I'm a big video game nerd. I've my entire life been just huge into video games. And so when Nintendo announced Switch 2 a few days ago, it's pretty incredible to watch how far they've fallen off. I mean, they have fallen off. So Switch 2 is basically PS4 level. We're on PS5 for those counting at home. PS4 came out, I think, 10 years ago now. It's PS4 level graphics at $500 for the console. And now they've raised the price of the games to $80 a game, which is all-time highs for really bad games. And on top of that, they're like price gating physical features. Like on the controller, there's a new button, a C button, which is like the chat button, but you can only use it if you have like a subscription service. So now there's physical buttons on the controllers that you can't use unless you're paying a monthly subscription, which is just absolutely insane. So it's over. It's just all over.
It's Jover.
Don't you think the Nintendo IP will keep them alive in the same way that like the Apple ecosystem will? I mean, like, for example, when I think of racing games, I think of Mario Kart, and like, I can't imagine replacing Mario Kart with like, I don't know, Sonic Racing or something like that.
Yeah, but like no one's gonna buy Mario Kart for $80 on a new $500 system where you have to spend $20 a month to even chat with your friends. Like, yeah, the IP is incredible. They're obviously the best video game IP on planet Earth, but like there's at some point where 12-year-old kids are not going to be able to spend $19,000 to play Mario Kart.
Evan, I feel like this is your kind of conversation. He's more a gamer than I am. I think that he has you have the PS4, PS5, something like that over here. And then he's got the Switch. He's got the Oculus. He's got all these stuff. So this is like right up his alley with all these different pieces. I think it's interesting to me. A little Super Smash Bros. Goes a long way, but never been a huge... Can
you make him holding a Nintendo Switch in the other hand? What the hell is this?
It's a sticky Alex holding a Nintendo Switch.
I just imagine Evan sitting there just trying to manipulate pictures of me for like 8 hours a day when in between meetings. I look pretty good. That's a nice looking suit. I can get a plastic suit like that. That's a pretty good looking suit.
Post shoot. Penny, anything else you'd want to get off your chest today?
No, man, I'm done. Everyone should go listen to Evan's interview of the Perplexity CEO. That was great yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great interview talking all about Perplexity, AI. A bunch of people tuned in. Go check it out. If you are watching this on YouTube, tap that subscribe button, turn on notifications. We also drop shorts, some hot shorts throughout the week. Subscribe button. Someone put it right here. I feel like Mr. Beast.
The like button too. And then reply what your credit card number is.
Yeah. Comment your credit card number below, or just ask us, your favorite questions, or tell us your real thoughts on Apple.
Just do anything. We want to boost the algorithm so it gets seen more. So literally just reply anything at all. We're not going to look. So just put it down below.
Like and follow on X. Maybe we'll take some questions and pieces like that. As always, hope everybody deeply enjoyed. We should be getting this Vlad Tenev interview out soon. And then we have another big interview coming up in 2 weeks. So a lot to look forward to. Thank everybody for tuning in as always. We'll see you on the next one.
Goodbye.